This is a king who wouldn't take no for an answer. You just didn't do it in his kingdom. And things were tense, as you can imagine. Now, this king had ambitions beyond his already puffed up self. And he would look at the moon, the full moon, and he would say, I, king, should be able to touch the moon. I should be able to get perhaps some silver on my exquisite hand. But how will I get up there? And then he said to the carpenter, build me a tower so I can get up and touch the moon. And of course the carpenter wanted to say, but he could not. So he said, I will put my mind to it. And it took him 3 or 4 days. And then he said, okay, Your Majesty, I figured it out. Everyone in this kingdom, every household has a chest or 2 or 3. And we will send out a proclamation, bring your chests. And they came. I mean, the people didn't have any choice. And you cannot imagine the variety of these chests. I mean, some were carved, and some were painted, and some were plain, and some were big and smaller. And it took a lot of figuring, but the carpenter managed to, pile them up so you could kind of climb. And it was the time of the full moon, and the king started to climb, climb. He was quite high up. And he stretched out his arm and he said, it won't work, moon's too far away, more chests. And the carpenter wanted to say, Your Majesty, that was every chest in. But he couldn't, because the king said, make me chests. And so they gathered all the lumber and they made more chests, many, many chests, every stick of wood. And those went on top of the people's chests, and it was pretty tall. And the full moon, the climb, the reach, not close enough. More chests. Your Majesty, the wood, and His Majesty just made a magisterial gesture. Wood is everywhere, which meant that the carpenter had to cut down every tree in the kingdom. And you can imagine the pandemonium. I mean, first of all, those who lived in the trees, the creatures, they were freaked. And the people who needed shade, and the fruits, and it was a nightmare. And the kingdom looked devastated, but they milled those trees, and they built those chests, and they piled them up. And the tower now was, it was so high up you could barely see the top of it. And the moon was full, and the king started to climb, and climb, and climb past the chests, past the made chests, past the made chests, and he reached up his hand, and he said, I can almost reach that moon. Give me another chest. And the carpenter said, Your Majesty, there are no other. And the king said, just take them from the bottom. We know what happened to that king. Oh, might it happen to another king. Well, I've been doing Pilates for many decades, but in our town, our class is mostly grumpy old women. We're grumpy because we ache. The teacher, who is young and cheerful, looked at the lineup and she said, I'm feeling kind of claustrophobic. Could some of you kind of move back a little? And immediately one said, I got here first, and the other one said, but I can't hear if I'm back there. And the teacher just picked up her mat and she walked around to the back, and she sat up, and she started teaching. And people swiveled around. They weren't where they thought they wanted to be. But we had our class, and would that territorial stuff be solved so beautifully with the movement of a mat.